kids with powers fight down describes things as far-flung as X.
Oh, is it? Hold on.
Because that is X. You remember X? I think we showed the first 4 episodes of the TV show at RIT Anime.
I think it might be this one called Chronicle.
Yeah, I definitely didn't see that if that's what it's called. There were 2 movies at RIT. Usually we'd all go to movies together, but there were 2 times where you all went and I didn't.
This is from 2012.
Can't be that. Because one of them was, let's see, I fell asleep during the one. I actually didn't see the entire middle of that movie. I woke up during the motorcycle chainsaw fight. And you all went to see The Matrix 2, and I did not. I was on a date, I remember. And you went to see this wizard movie. I can't think of any other movies you all went to that I didn't go to.
This is in 2012. 3 high school friends gain superpowers after making a discovery underground in Seattle. Soon they find their lives spinning out of control and their bond tested as they embrace their darker sides.
I mean, that sounds like your description, but 2012, we're already living here.
I think you may have seen it. Let's check.
There was that E.T. alike movie that we saw. I remember that. We watched that at Capstone.
Which one was that?
I don't fucking remember what it was called, but the kid finds an alien and it helps the alien. The alien gives him powers a little bit. I don't remember anything else about it, but if I saw it, I would know the name instantly.
Oh, that was like an Asian movie.
Yeah, we got it at Video Bar.
Like a random VHS or DVD that was lying around. Oh, or Scott Johnson downloaded it or something.
Yeah, there were a lot of Scott Johnson downloaded it.
Anyway.
All right, I think we can go. I assume you got a thing of the day.
I sent it to you.
Oh, cool. I see it. All right. We're already live. I'm going to hit record. Looks like nothing broke while I was away. Opening bit can be skiing, obviously. I got some insights.
What, you mean opening bit not's going to be sat around, played video games?
Yeah. I talked a big game about what I expected skiing in the West on big mountains and how easy it would be, and now I have the full awareness of that situation. All right. It's Monday, January 30th, 2023. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we're talking about online ads and Adtech. So we had we always have a hiatus in Geek Nights every year for the 15 years plus.
We've got all kinds of hiatuses. No one's paying us to do this shit.
Yep.
So
we make
whenever we want.
Geek Nights makes dozens of dollars a month from YouTube Red mostly, or whatever they call it now, YouTube Premium.
You know what the difference is between us and the other hiatuses? You always come back. So far, we've come back every time.
Yep. Podcasts rise and fall. We just keep us and Penny Arcade just keep fucking going, and The Simpsons, they just keep going.
Penny Arcade doesn't hiatus though. I don't
True.
think they've missed a strip in 20.
They were more diligent about getting guests to do strips when they couldn't do one. We did that a few times.
It's like they always upload something.
I should try that again. Next time we have to go to hiatus, I should arrange like we did those few times to get guests to the show because the format's real easy.
But they make their livelihood off it, which
Yeah, I mean if
we lived off this, then I would make sure there was always something uploaded to. Because think about it, if somebody was actually paying money for this, let's say we were taking ads.
If this was our full-time job, there would never.
Ads, not putting up episodes means reducing our inventory, which means no money comes in.
Wait, you just called it inventory, meaning you definitely were reading up on Adtech.
I mean, I read the whole Google thing. That's going to be our news in 2 seconds. And then, if we were getting paid by patrons, right, and it wasn't this, some bullshit patron, but a real one that I told people to pay for.
Yep.
It's like we'd have an obligation to them, which we don't have right now. They're just fools paying for no guarantees of anything whatsoever.
Plus, if I could do this full time and live the life I live now, I definitely would. No question. But we would never miss a show. Or anyway,
you want to talk about you finally skied in a superior ski.
And I want to point out, full disclosure, for months leading up to the ski trip, I kept saying off and on in real life and Geek Nights all over the place, It's going to be pretty easy. I'm pretty sure it's going to be really easy because like East Coast snow is all like ice and bullshit. And like I learned in the hardest conditions you can learn in. So every indication is that big mountain West Coast skiing is just going to be like so easy. And I'm just going to be doing like the craziest trails and having a great time. And you know what?
Sure, that's exactly right. Yeah.
It was exactly right. Holy shit, is skiing easy as hell on West Coast snow. And the people
or
like
also if you went to the Alps, it would be the same probably.
Yeah, except the Alps have no snow. The Alps have worse.
Andes is good
The Alps
skiing.
have worse conditions this year than like Hunter Mountain does in New York State.
Well, I'm sure it varies year to year, but
No, this is the first time in recorded history it's been this bad. It's like catastrophically bad. There's no snow in the Alps.
Than whatever New York has.
Nah,
right?
yeah, until this year, the Alps are like the West, but this year,
There's other places with good skiing, like Iran. Iran has good skiing.
yep. Actually, so get this, the Epic Pass that we get that covers Vail, it covers Hunter Mountain, like the mountain here that we ski, like the local crappy one.
Oh, one pass you can buy and then you can just use it to ski around the world?
Everything in the Epic network that Vail, like the company owns, which includes Vail, the resort, like that's the home base resort. Lift tickets for a day at Vail are $250. A season pass that includes 10 days at Vail plus unlimited skiing like fucking everywhere else in the East Coast is like $600.
Good deal.
So the pass we already used to ski at our dumpy mountain just made Vail skiing free. We just had to pay for the place and the lift ticket. But so I learned a few things skiing out there. One, yeah, it's just better in every possible way. Like
That's why it's a cost. You know, if you want to buy a house in Vail, how much does it cost? If you want to buy a house in Hunter, if you want to buy a house in Hunter Mountain, what does it cost? Right?
Yeah, so scarily, houses near Hunter Mountain are kind of
Mountain skiing was as good as the other skiing. The house in Hunter Mountain would cost a fortune.
houses in Vail they're not as expensive as you would expect because you will think about New York City pricing and it's kind of comparable actually.
Well, but the thing is, you get right. You're paying a lot, but you're paying for it to be close to the skiing.
Yeah, just
unlike New York, right? Where you're in New York, you're paying to be in the New York. So that evens out.
Yep.
Well, it doesn't even out. Being in the New York is way better than being near the skiing. But you get a lot. You're going to get a more house out there. Right?
Oh yeah, but not that much more because Vail is
You're not
so
getting some tiny apartment. It's like
Vail is in this mountain pass where there's like a regional airport and there's one road in and out on either side of the valley and that's it.
yeah, and there's no public transportation other
There
than probably
is
ski shuttle.
the town of Vail, the actual like city there. All public transportation is free for anyone. They don't check anything. Buses just come and go. It all just works. Walk on, walk off.
It's not like there's a train. It's like a major city. It's like the town is just a town that exists for skiing.
Yep,
it's
but
not like this.
Yeah, the town only exists for skiing and other outdoor recreation. Like it's
like there's people who live in Wildwood. There's a school there. We see it, right?
Yep.
But it's really a beach. You know.
Yeah.
The majority of people there are there for the beach, and the people who live there are people who live there.
So one thing I learned, I've never been that high long enough to have altitude sickness before, and I and everyone in the group except one of us, George, had altitude sickness the first day. Like we just
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's real. It's not a joke.
It was funny. We land and we're walking, like we're getting our stuff and we feel fine. We're like, all right, I'm a little lightheaded, but this is fine. Then we get to the place and it's a 2-story like condo we're staying in. We walked up the stairs and I had to stop near the top. I ran out of breath that first day. Like I was like panting.
I mean, even if I skied, or let's say I went there to bike, I guess when the snow melted, I don't know, right? I would not do it for like 24 hours after getting.
So that's what we did. We flew in that morning, and the first day was just acclimate to the altitude.
Yep. I mean, I always remember that one dude. I forget what team he played for, but he was an NFL player, and they had a game against the Broncos in Denver. And he this wasn't a football problem. It wasn't like someone hit him real hard, like, recent situations, right? It was just due to altitude sickness. He had, there's a name for it, I think, where it's like, it's extremely emergency. You could die back.
Oh, yeah. So basically, right? It's kind of like seasickness.
If you have whatever condition that guy has, you just can't do strenuous physical activity.
So
altitude
it's
places,
like
period,
seasickness,
or you'll die.
In that it's kind of random, like fitness, age, all the things
more rare than seasickness.
1 in 4 people will experience acute mountain sickness, but a much smaller percentage will experience.
About the dying level of sickness. Yeah.
So we were watching for the symptoms because the first day, like we all just had a headache and felt like shit all day. But then the next day, woke up, felt great. I skied like 150 miles over the course of the week, and every day I went harder. I got 89 runs in, and those runs are like 6 times longer than Run 100 Mountain. I skied more in those 5 days than I think I skied in the last 3 years combined. It was amazing. Like everything about it is great.
When you come back down the mountain, you're like, oh, so much oxygen. You get like,
yeah. Oh, when we got back home, like right after we landed the next day, I played DDR just to see because it was too cold to run outside. Yeah, my heart rate was just lower while I was working out, like way lower. And if you look at my Google or my Apple Watch chart of resting heart rate and like average heart rate and blood O2, you see it's almost like a chart of how long have we been in Vail because the heart rate skyrockets and then slowly drops day by day while we're there. But the skiing was amazing. I was like off in these back boulders. There's like a front side of the mountain that's like normal mountain, like ski resort. That's just big, like giant. Behind it are these giant bowls, just skiing any direction, like all the way down the mountain. It just funnels you into a valley.
The lodge is at the bottom, and the lifts go like every which way. Right?
So the lodges are at the bottom of the front side, and on the top, and in the middle. The back side of the mountain,
like a multi-lodge. Right?
Yeah, the back side of the mountain, you go off the other back end of the mountain into a bowl. There's nothing at the bottom except lifts. Like it's just in the middle of the wilderness. Or you take a lift even further out. We got to this blue sky basin that takes like 45 minutes of ski down, ride a lift, ski down, ride a different lift, ski down, ride a different lift to get to this other basin way in the back.
Oh, okay.
Which was also.
I seem to remember the one. I just remember seeing one. I don't remember where I saw it. Where there was basically. You drive up and there's like, parking lot, right?
Yep.
And there's like one lift that just goes, and it's like, that's it, one lift. And then the other side is a bowl.
Yep.
Right? And the lodge is at the bottom in the middle. And the lifts once you're in the bowl go basically every possible direction, north, south, east, west. And you can ski basically from, on the north side, on the west side, and no matter where you ski, you end up at the lodge at the bottom. So you could go do the north side. Then
this place is so big, you'll end up
and
like.
When you want to go home, you have to use the one lift that goes to the other side of the mountain where the car.
That's typical. This place is just it's literally like the biggest in North America. I think like it is so big that you could travel to a different area basically just by skiing. And
of course, I'd be surprised if it was. Not good. It's like, why the hell is everyone going to that place if it's the not good place, right?
Yep. And I finally, now I really,
strange.
Like I leveled up my skiing. I was doing some really fun, dire stuff. I skied down some like black diamond, ridiculous bowls. And also,
somehow you made it back.
Because I'm a real fucking good skier. And now I have confirmed this absolutely.
We'll see. Rim goes again next year.
I'm going back every year. God, I will prioritize being able to ski at a place like that every year from now on. It is so worth it.
And then in 3 years from now, there's no snow.
So we were talking to Colorado has the most snow ever. So at least for the short term, Colorado and Utah are doing fine. The rest of the world is effed.
I mean, this year was not the last year of snow, but someday.
It is depressing. It is depressing to think about the fact that unless humans radically change course in a way that our governments won't let us, I may live to see a day where children are like, yeah, there used to be this sport called skiing that weird, like white people did.
Now you can only do it in Antarctica.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll post some photos later and stuff. But
meanwhile, those kids live in Antarctica because it's so warm. We start building civilization down there.
I also tried the kinds of skis that don't work on the East Coast because the East Coast is all like icy bullshit. So you need like stupid skis. I just used regular old skis
with you, and then you rent, or did you just rent?
I just rented there, and we rented from a fancy place, so they would give us skis based on our preferences and ability, and we could swap.
You didn't have to carry any skis there?
Oh no, and we'd swap as many times.
Skis though is easier than carrying bikes, so.
Yeah. Most people bring their skis, but the skis I used on the East Coast would not work on real snow. They're designed for shitty icy snow because 90% of the time that's what I'm skiing on out here.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I've tried those other kinds of skis too, they're so much more fun. And I don't think I could use them here. Like, I don't think they would work.
Bikes are so much easier. It's just like, does it have 2 wheels?
Yep.
Does it work?
Are you going downhill? What kind of suspension does it have? If you're not,
you don't need any of that. Does it have 2 wheels? Does it go? You're good. You can ride it anywhere, right?
Nah, mountain bike trails.
It might not be the perfect one, but it's going to work, right?
Well, we did on that bike tour across New York. Emily and I did in the summer. We ended up in the last segment on an actual mountain biking trail in our our hybrid bikes with heavy panniers on the back, and we made it down just fine. But I gotta say, that is not comfortable without a suspension. Good fucking God.
But just say it's like, you know, there's never, you said there's a situation where the skis won't work, right?
Yeah. Well, no, they'll work. Like, I could get down the mountain. I could, just like a hybrid bike, I could get down the mountain. You know what I couldn't do? Carve.
Anyway,
in the news,
a bunch of shit happened thanks to the hiatus, and we're going to talk all about it today, and then forget all about it. The next show.
Struggle to come up with a Monday episode.
Yeah.
But briefly, because this is so big that we almost can't talk about it, but we got to talk about the fact that this is a thing that's growing. Pretty much
so big.
Pretty much, well, the Google thing is secondary to this. Pretty much every tech company has done massive layoffs in the past 3 weeks.
It's big, but there's not too much to say about it other than
that, it is such a rapid contraction of the technology world globally. It's not even just the US. Like, Google laid off 12,000 people, Facebook laid off 11,000, Amazon 10,000, Microsoft 10 or 11,000, Salesforce 8,000, Amazon 8,000. So far there've been almost 300,000 layoffs just among large technology firms, almost entirely in engineering and technology disciplines.
Yeah. Okay. So why is this happening? And the truth of the matter is, right, if you try to figure out, no company is going to tell you the truth about what the executives were saying in the meeting and what they decided, right? But if you read experts, people who used to be executives of other companies, right? You know, people who are reliable and not evil, right? The truth is, why are they doing this, right? Well, it's a time in which there's some inflation going on. Prices on some things are rising. Yep. And companies want to cut costs, right? Because it's easy to cut costs. You could just do it. If you're an executive, you could just order your company. You can just say the word and costs are cut. You stop spending money that you have, right?
Yep. You just kill some projects.
You can't say the word and bump revenues up.
Yeah. Unless you're crooked. We'll talk about Google in a little bit.
Unless you're crooked, you can't say the word and just get revenues, right? You actually have to do work to get revenues and succeed and make right bets and do right. It's not, you can't automatically get more money.
Yep.
So when companies look to cut costs, right? Companies right now are cutting costs in many other areas, right? They're trying to cut costs on technology, like the actual computers.
Yep.
Like how can we cut our Oz spending is like a huge conversation.
Yep. Can we shut down data centers? Can we minimize service we give to customers? Anything.
How can we provide the same good or service that our company provides as its core business to maintain our revenues, but spend less money, right? What can we stop spending money on and still operate? Because we don't like the way that the market's looking. We don't like how prices on other people are raising their prices on us. We can raise our prices, but other people are raising their prices. So it's like, that doesn't increase profits. That just raises makes a bunch of numbers bigger, right?
Yep.
So cutting labor is an enormous cost at any company.
It's the biggest cost in most industries everywhere, including technology industries.
Especially in a place like the US, right? When you hire an employee, let's say you hire an employee whose salary is $100K, that employee probably costs the company $200K because of the other $100K of stuff they have to pay for.
And it's also just training, the onboarding time.
Right. All the other stuff they got to pay for that employee, you basically double the salary is what they actually cost the company.
Yep.
401k matches, all kinds of shit. Right. So when you fire people, right, lay them off, even when you pay severance to everybody, it's like, in the short term, your costs basically stay the same because you paid severance. It doesn't cost you more, right? And then after that 6 months or whatever of severance, and you stop paying all those people, now your profits go up even though your revenues are the same.
Yep.
Right? And the thing is, companies right now, for a long period of time, the past many years, companies weren't concerned with profits, really, especially not in the tech sector. They were concerned with numbers, right? How many, user accounts did you get signed up? Are you growing, son? Right?
Yep. They wanted growth, and they wanted competitive advantage. So if you have a competitor and they're hiring like crazy, what are you going to do? You're also going to hire like crazy, and you're going to try to beat each other.
You got Netflix, right? But what's happened recently is, the reality that should have been there all along, which is investors stopped asking how many subscribers you got and, started asking, how much profit are you making?
Yeah. Can I have some money?
Profitable. We never have been.
Yep. But also, consumer spending, irrespective of inflation going up, consumer spending is dropping in the U.S. for a number of reasons. Partly,
someone like me who can afford to pay for things, I've been just going through and looking at what I spend money on and canceling things.
Yeah, I cancel streaming apps. I stop buying.
I see high prices. It's like, could I afford to buy $10 cream cheese? I could. I am that fortunate that I could. But it's like, I'm not paying fucking $10 for cream cheese. I'm going to get the cream cheese I like less for $4.
I paid, because it was the only option. I paid over $1 an egg to buy a dozen eggs in Vail so we could cook breakfast.
Oh, and okay, but I'm thinking, right? Even me, I could afford to buy the $5 dozen eggs.
Yeah.
Usually they used to cost
$1. It was $12 in Vail.
Oh my God, I could afford to buy $5 eggs at the overpriced New York grocery store. But you know what? I think we should go to Costco, buy a whole tray of eggs and split them, right?
Yeah. I got the car. It'd be really easy to distribute them among our collective friends.
We don't need a car. I got a little wagon.
Well, what are you going to get? You can take that wagon out to Flushing?
Yeah, everyone can come over, have a little party, and everyone take
egg party?
Egg party. Anyway.
But also, part of that consumer spending drop.
Even I have been anecdotally recently, past few months, right, cost conscious, and companies are doing the same thing.
Yep. But another thing going on is Americans are poorer than they've been in a long time for all the reasons you can imagine. Like a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people are being paid less. A lot of people lost a caregiver or someone who worked in their family because COVID killed so many people. Like we're in an unprecedented time in the history of the American economy. Never mind the rest of the world.
World economy too.
Yep.
Yeah.
But America's got extra stupid problems on top of the general problems of the world.
Yeah, it's like we got other issues, right? You got the eggs we just talked about. Is that because of the bird flu killed all the chickens?
But also, even if we didn't kill if there was no bird flu, the eggs were only ever that cheap in the first place because of the extreme exploitation of both chickens and the humans who deal with the chickens.
Indeed.
If any society in the world paid a living wage and what it cost in human misery and dealt with the externalities of even simple stuff like eggs, our entire system collapses.
Yep. So basically the way you think about it is you're playing SimCity and someone goes to the menu and clicks on 5 disasters at once.
Yep.
Right? And the Godzilla comes in and it's the end result of all those disasters when it, it's boils down to how it affects the tech companies is lay a bunch of people off.
Yep.
So that's.
I think a little bit of this too. As soon as one of them lays off, all the other ones can do the same, and they get cover.
Yes, a lot of them are not doing it due to some internal logic they have of they calculated it or whatever. They're copycatting or meeting market expectations or trying to hit estimates or they're doing it just because they don't even fucking know why. I read a study about are layoffs a good idea? How do companies decide to do them and do they benefit? And you know what? The fact is, layoffs usually don't help companies. It doesn't usually actually, create the positive impact that they think it does, and they keep doing it anyway.
I don't want to belabor the point, but if you look back to where things really started to go weird in America, before the mid-'70s, a lot of companies had a lot of just extra employees around who weren't doing that much that was important, and that sort of provided a glue to society because a lot of people made enough money to live, but not everyone had to work that hard in a lot of big companies. And then as companies realized, hey, we'll be better off if we trim the fat and just work more efficiently, that was good for the company, but it was bad for people because it turned out there weren't enough jobs that companies were willing to pay a living wage for, and that spiral sort of continued into today and now is continuing even further.
Yep. The last thing I want to say, right, is that one notable tech company, right, not to toot their horn because we can certainly criticize them, has yet to lay people off.
Oh, I can say something better. The company I work for, we're hiring. In fact, if any of you listening or a software engineer who is good.
My tiny little company will hire too, but
we're not tiny.
We're talking like, I don't know how many spots in the next year, maybe a handful. But anyway, and we're mostly looking for salesy people. But the point is, the big tech companies, who hasn't laid people off yet? Apple. And you know what Apple did do? They reduced Tim Apple's salary at his request.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, plenty to criticize in the Apple world, clearly, right? But Apple, by doing that, instead of laying people
So
off,
there's reporting today, numerous analysts are saying Apple is definitely going to lay people off. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Well, maybe they will. And in which case, then...
Yeah, we'll see.
What I'm about to say is not true then.
Yep, but as of now, it is still true. This is speculation that I'm reporting on.
All right. Let's just say any company that were to not lay people off when its competitors did, right? That were to say hire when its competitors were firing, that company would be buying into the dip.
Yep.
Right? You would be that's buying low. You're getting these great employees when competition for their labor is weak at a low price. And then when those other companies that laid people off, when you get to the next quarter and the next quarter, those companies are not going to be delivering cool products at their keynote speeches because they didn't have anyone doing. They were just keeping the lights on. They didn't have people. They canceled all their hot projects. A lot of those projects were going to miss and fail and probably were a waste of money.
Yep.
But at least one of them might have been something exciting, right? So all those companies now, they canceled a bunch of crap, good, but they also canceled something that might have been a success. And now those companies are basically ensuring that they're going to maintain status quo and not, for the near future, deliver anything new and amazing that would generate good revenues.
Ooh, I found a chart along these lines showing that the biggest drop in consumer spending was people in yours and mine demographic. The richer people, but not the richest people. They are the ones who are cutting their discretionary spending drastically.
Right. But if a company were to not lay people off and were to hire, they would, I predict, right, basically suddenly come out and deliver, right, some awesome kind of product, right, that would pull in the customers, whatever customers are out there, right, and, get a big boost while everyone else was asleep. And
yep, that was what I was arguing at my job strongly. I strongly believe in what you said. Now is the time.
If Apple does not lay people off, right, because right now they haven't yet to do so, at least in this cycle here,
yep.
Right, then I predict that they will be the company that does exactly that, right? They will come out, right, when Microsoft and everyone else is asleep, and like next year or the year after, it's going to be like, oh shit, Apple's got the hot shit, and everyone else has nothing to compete with.
Right. So we'll see what happens. This is there's a lot going on in the U.S. economy. This is one tiny, tiny sliver. The other big news, and there's so much to say here, but it'll segue into the main bit. The United States Department of Justice is basically going as hard as hell against Google to the point that they could, if this succeeds, break them up over this.
Yep. So just to focus only on this suit, because we're going to, what's happening is it's an antitrust lawsuit, obviously, right? Similar to the Microsoft one back in the day, where they're basically saying, hey, you're a company and you had monopoly power in one area of business, and you used that monopoly power to basically, kill off competition in other areas of business, right? In an unfair way, and an illegal way, according to the laws of the United States.
Yep.
So there's already a suit against Google that's an antitrust suit about search advertising, and that's an old suit that's been around for years that's coming to court like later this year, I think. And that suit is only about search advertising, the old one. When that search advertising is obviously you do a search on Google, results come up, and there's ads mixed in with the search results, right?
If you're not running ad block.
Right, sure. This new suit, the one that's the big news, is not about search advertising. Not at all. It's about display advertising, because this was, I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, it was news on GeekNights when this happened. Google bought a company called DoubleClick.
Yeah.
DoubleClick was a company that basically had a near monopoly, was the industry leader at technology, Adtech, for display advertising. Which includes you have a website, you put ads on it, other people want to buy ads, right? They go through some convoluted system we're going to explain in the main bit, and they pay money, the ad shows up on your website, you get money, right? And the images, videos, something that displays on your website, that's display advertising. Google, when they bought DoubleClick, right? The FTC, it actually mentions this, right? Said, okay, they made comments as to why it wouldn't be an antitrust problem, right? And in the lawsuit the DOJ filed, they said the FTC said this, and they were wrong. It was a problem, and I could have told you that back then. So
now,
a smart person is me.
The cool part about this lawsuit is the people within the Department of Justice who are driving it have issued some statements and given some clarity on why they're pursuing it in the manner that they're pursuing it. And the idea, to summarize all these articles, you can click and read the actual specific details, is they are hoping to set a new precedent for novel kinds of antitrust lawsuits that have previously been ignored or been difficult to achieve. Like, it's been hard to win. This is if this succeeds, this is going to be like the big breakup of like JP Morgan, Oil Trust, and such back in the day. Like, this would be a new era of trust busting, because
now, I am not a lawyer, right? But the evaluations I have seen, including reading most of the actual court filing, most of the court filing is actually a layman's plain English description of how this business works and what Google did in this business. Like,
honestly, it's a better description than like some sites that explain how Adtech works,
right.
To be honest.
If you just want to learn how Adtech works, just read this thing. It's like, it won't take you really that long. You can skip most of it. And it's pretty much just like, here's how Adtech works. This is what Google did in that part of Adtech. This is why it's a crime. Next part. Right?
And I got to say,
here's the next part of the ad business.
Reading it, and we'll get into this in the main bit about why I'm about to say this.
It breaks this law and this law.
Reading
this
it
law here and that law there.
From the perspective of someone who is an expert in capital markets and has been in that industry for a long time, it is so egregious and obviously ripe for abuse what Google was doing, and honestly what all digital ads, not just Google, but all online ads with very few exceptions. This is shit that capital markets and like stock exchanges regulated over 100 years ago because it was so obviously it's ripe for corruption.
Well, I'm going to go further than that, right? I think what's happened is we have the internet and computers, right?
Yep.
Have allowed people to create digital marketplaces of any kind.
Yep.
Right? Anyone could just make a digital market, right? Steam has fucking cards and money and skins going around, right? It's like just anyone with no government interference or regulation whatsoever.
Yep. If I want to make a market that sells stock, I got to comply with a million regulations. If I want to make a market that sells pictures of Scott that I drew.
Yep. There are markets that involve, the things that the SEC regulates, at least in the US. Other countries have their own equivalents, right?
Yep.
Real financial markets. If anyone else who just makes a market of any kind anywhere, right, is completely unregulated until the government of the place where the market exists.
It's a point of order, but making a market is actually a technical term for something very specific. You should probably say create a market.
Market makers at the stock market.
Yeah, making markets is a thing that can happen within markets.
Building a marketplace. Like you're in civilization and you go to your city and like, what do I build next?
The market.
I need another trade route. That kind of building a market. So, but yeah, we've seen it with crypto, we've seen it with skins, we've seen it with.
But go one step further with advertising specifically, as an example, you are making a market about a thing where the only evidence you can give the person buying your thing is evidence you create about the effectiveness of that thing. You're selling someone something.
There are ways anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to try to independently verify, which we'll get into in the main bit, but you're basically selling an asset that you control in a manner that is not regulated and can be very opaque to the person buying. And the people buying kind of have a vested interest in not necessarily knowing how effective or how well it's working because of the weird incentives of this kind of market.
So anyway, based on my personal assessment, this case, right, the reason it might fail is because This is a very difficult kind, like Rim said, it's a difficult kind of thing to do. People haven't tried it since like AT&T, Microsoft times, right? And it's like they're trying to go up a big hill. However, the case that they have brought is basically the strongest conceivable case, right? It's like, if you're going to try to go up that mountain with any company under any anti-competitive circumstance, if they wanted to go after NBC, Comcast, or Verizon, or any giant monopoly-ish company that probably should be broken up, right? Sinclair with all its broadcasting shit they own everywhere, right? Like that. This one is probably the strongest case they could bring. So it's like,
even a real monopoly.
That's what they did, is they looked at all the monopolies they would like to destroy.
It's hard to go after an actual monopoly.
Case we have against any of them is the Google ad one. Let's do that one. And the case that they have brought, if it wasn't for a history of this being difficult to do, in my non-lawyer opinion, this would be a shoo-in.
Yeah, and it's partly because it is hard to go after monopolies in general. Like, the laws are not great.
In the U.S.
Yeah, in the U.S. But also, even when you can prove something is a monopoly, you often have to go further and prove either malfeasance or harm directly caused by the monopolistic situation.
To be a monopoly in the U.S., it's only a crime to like engage in certain specific anti-competitive behaviors, right?
And
like Microsoft, what they got in trouble for was not owning Microsoft Windows, which had a monopoly at the time on desktop computers. The reason they had a trouble back then is because they tried to use their monopoly power to stifle competition for web browsers and force IE to be the standard and destroy everyone else. And that was using their monopoly power for evil. So Google used its control of advertising and search to push other ad companies out and diminish them, right? And
never mind the implications that Google may have engaged in fraudulent behavior in the course of doing this.
Many fraudulent. Oh no, I
am speaking like someone who doesn't want to get sued. Allegedly, Google committed fraud to all hell.
I am personally confident that everything written in that case is true. That I've seen it with my own eyeballs.
So, if you wonder like what the impact of this could be, I should point out that
the crimes, Google did them.
Google makes the majority of its income from the advertising. Nothing Google makes fucking money except the ads. The ads are it. Google's nothing without the advertising.
Phones. I don't think those make any money.
Nothing makes money. That's a separate problem. But it is noteworthy. I think Google's in deep shit too, because they have not announced any features or updates from their ads team since November 17th last year. They just went radio silent in public.
Mm-hmm.
And the ad industry, like the companies that like talk about and like interact in the ad space, they're all like really scared of this, because this isn't just going to put the scrutiny on Google and what they did. This is putting scrutiny on the marketplaces of ads as a fundamental concept. And I think there's a lot of graft in that industry. A lot of grift.
You mean all of it?
Yeah. 99.9% of it.
We'll do some things of the day, and we'll talk about how that industry works.
All right, put a little marker there. Things of the day. So, Lackadaisy was a webcomic that I saw off and on. I didn't realize it started in like 2006.
I never read it, but I knew it existed.
It started in 2006. And the art got way better over time, but it was pretty good even in the beginning. Take like Black Sad, like that kind of setting and that kind of art, but make it a little cuter and a little more animal-y, and don't have the thing where the girl animals are hot in one way and the guy animals are like very radically differently drawn. Like, it doesn't have that problem, but it's very reminiscent of Black Sad. Just webcomic.
It's a little bit Black Sad. It's a little bit Rescuers, and it's a little bit Untouchables, right?
So Lackadaisy is getting an animated short. And I saw
this trailer, I was like, is this a whole movie? Where the fuck did the money come from?
Yeah, this trailer.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
This trailer looks fucking great. This would, even to make a short like this, will cost a lot.
If this was a full length animated motion picture, it would cost tens of millions of dollars. I'm like, where the fuck? But then it was like, oh, it's a short. Okay.
Yep. So this trailer is my thing of the day, because one, I'm watching this the second it comes out, and two, I started reading the webcomic. It's pretty good. I slept on this one. Webcomic that came out in 2006 that's great, that has cool animal people doing gangster stuff in the 20s that I didn't read. What the fuck's wrong with me?
You're just not interneting enough. You know.
No, I saw it all the time. I just never read it because I'm busy and reading other crap. Maybe I'm reading it now because I stopped reading Twitter.
Yeah, so I think that's, anything that's coming from the smaller indie places is going to get more visibility on the indie web, and we're going to see even less mainstream shit, right?
Yeah, so... I look forward to this, but this looks great. The voice acting sounds great. The animation looks great. Everything about this is great.
Yep. So there was a song. Rim knows this song because it was in Dance Dance Revolution. That was a big hit song in Japan long ago. It's called Dancing Hero, parentheses, Eat You Up by
Eat You Up.
Oginome.
Do, do, do.
Yeah.
Do, 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 do. I just danced that song yesterday.
Right. So that song, there was a few years back, right? There was a group of 5 Korean comedian women who parodied, covered that song, and choreographed a ridiculous, awesome.
Oh, this is good.
High energy dance, right? And the name of that group in Korea was Celeb 5, right? And it's funny because they lost a member, so it's only 4 people. They're still called Celeb 5.
Boys for now.
Yeah. So what happened after that is a third. There was a person. What's his Japanese person's name? I keep forgetting. Because I only learned about them recently because they're the person in the thing of the day.
I can't help because the entire description is in Japanese.
Ihara Rika is this Japanese person who is an actress, and she was going to be in a musical production in Japan, and then the COVID canceled the musical production. So what did she do? With no job, she made a YouTube, right? So her YouTube is like Ihara Rika Step and Go, right? And she's got a cute YouTube channel, right? And it's popular. She's got 134,000 subscribers. That's a lot more than we have, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things she did on her YouTube channel, like her top video, is she used to be, in her earlier days, according to the internet, like the captain of her high school dance team, right? So despite being she's a Broadway actress, she's got to have some dancing skills.
Yeah.
She got together a dance crew, and they performed the Celeb 5 cover, right? So it's a cover, right? But, being a dance crew and not just being 5 comedians, they did a way better job, right? And went more all out and extreme. And that video is the thing of the day.
Not too shabby. In the meta moment, we're back. I don't foresee any Geek Nights hiatus for the immediate foreseeable future. On Wednesday, we're going to review an anime, Ramayana. And next week on Thursday, we're going to do the Alif the Unseen book club. I finished it on the trip. Alif was seen.
Alif, you saw him.
Yeah. There were a few twists I did not expect. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I got to say, Vikram and his sister are the two.
Vikram.
Yeah, they are some of the best characters in this book. I love those two.
It's Vikram, not Vikram.
Yeah, I know a guy at work who pronounces it Vikram.
I've known human beings who had that name, and it was pronounced.
I know a guy who pronounces it Vikram at work, and actually, back when I worked at 2 jobs ago. The company I worked for, there was a guy, he was from Russia, but he lived in the U.S., and his name was spelled Ivan, I-V-A-N, but he pronounced it Ivan. That was just a personal thing that he did.
The Google says Vikram.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Those 2 characters are great, and the best part of the book is a moment when they're I'm trying not to spoil things, they're in a weird place, interacting with a weird entity, and they're like, we don't have any of your weird money. How do we pay you? And what he pays that entity with for his services is that, and the little illustrations in the last pages of the book are fantastic.
All right.
Ifrit with the iPod.
Yep.
So yeah, Alif the Unseen has been seen, and then I get to announce the cut and choose. I'm going to announce 2 books, and Scott will have to pick them. Pick one of the 2 to read. We'll see. I don't know what you'll pick. I really don't.
Anyway.
One of them's long, though. That might influence you.
All right. So let's talk about, we talked about in the news, Google's being sued for their monopoly on display advertising, right? How does display advertising on the internet, the thing that we all block,
Yep.
right? Hopefully. How does it work when you don't block it, right? There's 3 main pieces, right? There is the publisher side, which is also the sell side, I believe, right?
Yep. The people who they publish content and they have space for ads.
Right. You have a website and you want to put ads on it to make money, right? There is the exchange, and then there is the buy side. You are a person who has a good or service and you would like to buy ads so that people click on them and come to your website instead of the website they're on and then buy your shit.
Now, you might notice buy side and sell side are also terms used in capital markets, and just keep that in the back of your mind for later in this main bit, because there's some things that are stuck in my craw about Adtech. They've been stuck in there for like a decade and they're irrelevant. But one thing you have to really disabuse yourself of is the idea that ads are like manually or statically placed anymore. That is rare. That is like a very different kind of advertising.
It does happen.
Yep, but it's rare. It's a different kind of advertising. It's usually a lot more expensive. It usually involves one-off like direct contracts between individuals or groups, or like it's a very different world from most online advertising.
Right. It usually only takes place with very, very big websites.
Like
right?
Penny Arcade back in the day would do that. Even back when their like early ad exchanges were forming, Penny Arcade's website, when there was an ad there, they had a direct agreement with like a game publisher to do a custom ad on their site for them, one-off.
Yep. Or you'd be like, okay, we are such and such newspaper, and such and such person is like going to be our ad partner, our official sponsor or whatever, right?
Yep.
So we have to run their ads. We can't just we're not just, if you just got a blog and you want to make some money, it's like you're just running whatever ads, right? It's like you're not, making individual deals like, it's like when you go on YouTube, these aren't display ads on YouTube, they're sponsorships,
yep.
And you see like all these people running ads for NordVPN. Not all those people didn't like go to NordVPN and sign contracts with them. NordVPN has like a thing on their website you can just sign up for.
Yeah.
Right. And just start promoting them, and then they send you money like the affiliate deals. Right. It's like it's all automated. There's no hand to handshake things going on. Right.
And when there is a handshake situation, that is like the organic ad read in the middle of the podcast you listen to or the YouTube video you watch. Obviously, there isn't an automated exchange that's inserting a natural ad read into a podcast, usually.
No. But let's say somebody does buy ads specifically like on a website. In that case, the technology behind how the ads work is still the same, except the exchange part is bypassed. Right?
Yep.
You basically skip the exchange. There's still the buy side and the sell side running the same software, but they just talk to each other directly, right? It's like, so here's how it works, right? It all begins when you, without your ad blocker like a fool, visit a website with an ad on it, right? And now what happens is that website goes, oh shit, I'm running some JavaScript. I want to put an ad here and make some fucking money.
Yep.
Right? And they run a piece of software, and that piece of software used to be called, and is sometimes still called, DoubleClick for Publishers. And the new name of it is Google Ad Manager. And this application, right, has a monopoly, right? You can choose to use another piece of software other than this to host your ads on your website.
It's probably a bad idea.
If you do so, if you choose to use something else besides Google Ad Manager, then the only ads that will be bidding, right, in the auction to be the ad that's going to show up, right, are going to be ads from other exchanges and other weird places that aren't Google, which means all of the people who are buying ads on the other side, right, if people are buying ads with Google AdSense, right, Google products, right, basically those people it's like you're running an auction house, right, and a lot of people just won't show up to your auction because they're Google people. If you want Google people to show up at your auction, then you have to use the Google product.
And because they own basically the entire industry, if they don't show up to your auction, you're going to get the lowest bidders. It's going to be all penis pills.
Right. So what does this software look like? Well, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's you go into it, you're like, new ad, on my homepage, right? It's this big. I want it to be images, videos, it's that you configure what the ad's going to look like. It gives you the embed codes. right? You copy and paste the embed codes into your website. And you configure like how much, how much are you willing to sell the ad for, right? It's like, well, if no one's willing, 50 cents minimum, if no one pays 50 cents, I'm not showing anything, right?
Yep.
Or I'll take whatever I can get. I don't care, right? You configure all that, everything that you need to configure.
A lot of people below a minimum bid, they'll show their own internal advertising or like their own content instead.
Yep. Or you might configure things like, these are the kinds of ads I'm willing to show. These are the kinds of ads I'm not willing to show. You might configure, hey, so-and-so company bought, a sponsorship deal, show these ads specifically from this person right, this many times because I made a deal with them, etc. All these things you need to configure about ads showing up on a website, you configure in there.
And there's a bunch of authentication mechanisms to make sure that like the sources of the ads themselves are on the list of ones you've approved. If you do that kind of process, there's a lot of technology.
It's a very complex. There's so much configuration that goes on, which is also why it's kind of hard to compete because you would have to, even if there wasn't a monopoly situation, your new product would have to have all the features of this one.
Yeah, it's also, it's got to, if nothing else, it's got to be performant. Think about that. Someone goes to a web page, and in the time the web page itself is loading, you have to complete an auction, get content from a third party, and embed it into your website. Like, this has to be performant as hell. If the ad doesn't load right away...
Why ads make your website slow.
Yep. But even then, like people buying ad inventory, like wanting to put ads on your website, they really want the ad to show up as fast as possible. And they'll be mad if it doesn't.
It also needs to do other things, like it needs to track and sort of count, like, okay, who saw the ad? How long did they see it? Who clicked on it? Who, right?
Yep.
Did they move their mouse over it? It's like, how long did they watch? Did they scroll past it? It's an ad that's below the scroll. Did they scroll down? It's, and then it's got to report that information, right? Here's how many ads you showed, right? And it's got to report that information back to the people who bought the ads too, right? It's like your ad was seen on this site this many times. It was clicked on this many times, right? All these things are encompassed in this one product. Right?
Yep.
So it's time to show the ad. It's decided that it doesn't know what ad to show. It's got to go find someone on the internet who's an ad buyer and sell them this ad, right? So it collects as much information as possible about the person looking at the website, right? You can't just go and be like, hey, we've got a square shape ad on frontrowcrew.com, right?
It worked that way in like the late 90s. It doesn't work that way anymore.
Who wants to buy an ad there? Nobody's going to want that, right? You have to be like, look, the person who's visiting this webpage.
They're a white male without ad block who has clicked on.
They're using an iPhone. They just 5 seconds ago, they were on Amazon and they were looking at skis, right? And they're on my website now. Right? And it's like you get as much information as you possibly can with all the third-party cookies and trackers and all the shit that you're blocking because you're smart, right? And you put that out there, right? And then you send that to one of the ad exchanges, the Google Ad Exchange, and that's where the bidding goes on. People see that and they're like, okay, how much is that worth, right? Will I bid on that? And how much will I bid to have my ad show up there?
Now you might be wondering, what if my website just lies about who's looking at it? That's part of what this technology, putting a big asterisk here, solves. Because in the end, the person buying the ads has to trust the analytics data they get through these platforms. Or if they're really big, they might have other platforms trying to independently monitor how the ad performance appears.
Well, that's part of what the exchange does, right?
Yeah.
It's like that is Google Ad Exchange will like look at the information that the publishing side sends them, and if they have more information about that ad, viewer, they will add it in to the information.
But this is the problem. This is why, remember the thing about capital markets I said before. You can't have a buy side and a sell side and an exchange in the same fucking company in capital markets. The entire world agreed over 100 years ago that is a terrible idea because everyone can lie to you and you have no recourse. So even though these are ostensibly separate platforms, I use Google to put up my spaces where people could buy ads. And the person buying ads uses Google to put ads in those places. And they also use Google to tell them how well those ads did.
Yep. So in this exchange, all that's happening is auctions, right? It's like, it's getting things to sell, right? Imagine an actual auction house, right? These antiquities and antiques are coming from the web.
I got a Fabergé egg here. Fabergé egg, $4.99.
Everyone looking at websites is an antique, right? And the ad exchange lines up all the antiques and gets as much information about each antique as they can.
Yep.
And then brings out the gavel, right? Okay, so who's buying? Who's coming to the auction house?
Hey, we got a sucker. Just spent a ton of money on a ski trip to Vail. Doesn't have ad block running for some reason. He spends all day on Twitter. He's looking at Twitter right now. Who wants to get in front of his fucking eyeballs? Let's go.
So this is the buy-side software. There's two kinds of buy-side software, right? Well, there's really only one kind, but in the Google world, Google has created, artificially two worlds in terms of buy-side.
Yeah.
Right? The one world that they've created is basically like the automatic like Google ad. I forget what the actual name of it is, but it's basically like if you just go to google.com and you try to buy ads using like AdSense or whatever the hell it is called now, right? It's like basically that is like this very, diminished and opaque and not very powerful system. It gives you very limited options.
I've used it professionally at my last company because I was in charge of marketing. And I got to say, opaque is a very diplomatic way of putting it. It doesn't tell you fucking anything useful.
Is it just called Google Ads? Or is it, I forget what it's called now.
The worst thing is using it, it would keep making recommendations on how to do things better. But those recommendations always just meant spending more money for some reason.
Yeah, no. Basically that, Google, it's just called Google Ads. Advertise, right? So yeah, the thing that's just called Google Ads now, I don't know what it used to be called, which has 80% market share, by the way, right? Is basically you go in and you put in, here's my ads, right? And you configure where you would like your ads to be seen. I want them to be seen by nerds and people who are searching for this, even if it wasn't, even though they're not search ads, that's still information that they might know, right? Someone was recently searching. Someone who was recently looking at, this website or that website. Someone in this demographic. Someone on these, I want to advertise on these websites. And this is how much I'm willing to pay at most for all of these different kinds of ads. If it's a YouTube ad, and it's for on a nerdy GeekNights video, I'm willing to pay $1. If it's on a Nazi video, no money.
Yep.
Right? All this configuration goes on there. But the Google Ads product, which is what most people have to use, right? Because they're not fancy, rich, giant companies, right? You just have to use that one because that's like the only thing you can reasonably use. Being just a small time deal, right? All those like Instagram ads you see from like small companies, all using this thing, right? That's like, you don't have a lot of configuration options, right? It's like you could imagine a lot more. And once you set it up, it just goes and it goes to the auction house and it bids for you, right? You can't possibly conceivably sit there and review all the bids.
Yep.
It's like, it's way too fast for that. There's too many websites.
And you've used the internet. You go to some dodgy pirate site to watch a hockey game and there's 1,000 ads on that website. How do you know your ad isn't showing up in one of those fucking things?
Right. So, but the point is, it's like you get reports back of like where your ad showed up and how much money you got back and all that kind of thing. Right. But it's like, you don't really have real complete control over, and you don't know what's happening, right? So what's happening here is that you've got an auction house, right? You got multiple auction houses, but the biggest one is the Google one, right? You're using this product, right? And, if people want to show your ads, right? Because 80% of people are using this product, they have to use the Google exchange, right? It's not going to make bids out anywhere else, right? Because it's the Google one. So you have an auction house being run. The person holding the gavel is Google, and everyone bidding is also Google. They're all bidding on behalf of someone else who isn't Google, but all the seats are filled by Google. And
literally everything we've described is regulated out of existence in capital markets, even in very dubiously regulated countries. Like, this is babies first.
The only thing you know about how your money that you put in, like, okay, here's $100, go buy ads. The only way... the only thing you know about how that $100 got spent is basically, it's like what Google decided to do.
You know what it's like? You give a kid $100 and say, "Hey, go tell people in town about my product," and the kid comes back and and the $100 is gone, and he tells you, "Yeah, I told 1 million people, and they all thought it was great."
Yeah, it's like, So that's all right. So there's a second part of the buy side, and this is also a Google product, right? Called Google Display and Video 360, right? Which has like 40% market share, right? So it's not as dominant, but this is what you use if you're a big deal, right? If you're like a big Fortune 500 company and you've got a marketing department buying internet display ads, they're not using Google ads like every other little, tiny company out there, right? They're using this thing. And this thing actually lets you configure freaking everything, right? Like, buying ads directly from someone, bidding on other exchanges. Mm-hmm. It's basically like the pro version of the Google ads, right? But it's still run by Google, and it still does evil stuff that you didn't realize.
I mean, in the end, you're still reliant on the person you bought the ad space from to tell you how well it went.
Well, the way you can tell is that if someone's not blocking ads, right? Then what's happening with display ads, at least in the simplest cases, let's say a JPEG, is that the JPEG is hosted on your domain, right? So at the very least, you can verify that an HTTP request is made to that JPEG from the browser that also requested the website, because the JPEG isn't hosted by the person who's hosting the website. It's hosted by you, the advertiser.
Now, I might have a scam website that redirects that request through another proxy. I may have an ad block that loads the ad but doesn't show it to me.
Sure, but I mean, while those kinds of frauds do exist and there's a battle around it, it's like there's a lot of people with phones out there who don't block any ads. Yep. They're seeing everything, and that's, it's still a large number of ads being seen. Are they effective? We've discussed that in the past.
Yep.
Are they worth what you're paying for them? Who knows, right? But that's how this works, right? So this auction happens, right? The auction used to be, back in the day, a second price wins auction. So basically, what happens is everyone bids for how much they're willing to pay for the ad. Whoever bids the most, obviously their ad is the one that's going to get shown, right? I'm going to pay $100. No one else is going to pay even $1, right? But the price you actually pay isn't the number you bid. I bid $1 million. I want my ad to be shown. All right, well, Rim bid the second highest. He bid $1. So you bid $1 million, but we're only going to charge you $1.01. You pay 1 cent higher.
This is ostensibly more fair because it's an opaque market in that you can set sort of your maximum price, but if you're the only one in town, they're not just going to milk all that money out of you, theoretically.
Nope. So, yeah. So it used to be a second price bid deal, right? Whereas now they've somewhat recently switched it to just first place wins, right? And when it was second price wins, they were doing shenanigans, putting in extra higher bids, right?
Because I remember when I was running this for my old company, we kept getting credits from Google where they'd be like, "Hey, here's 500 extra bucks just to spend on advertising." So, of course, if I put extra money in, Google basically paid me to put in ad buys that would raise the bid price.
Right. So so the other thing that happens is like, okay, so let's say I put out, I go make some bids, right? Let's say an ad someone visits a website, right? And that person trying to sell the space tries to sell it on the Google Ad Exchange. And they also try to sell it on some other exchange that isn't the Google Ad Exchange. And I'm trying to buy ads. And I'm not using the Google ads. I'm using something real. And I'm looking at multiple exchanges to try to buy ads. And I see the same ad spot show up on 2 different auction houses, right? Which can happen, right? It's not like an antique that can only be in one auction house at a time. It's like you got Sotheby's and you got Christie's, and they're both auctioning the same Van Gogh at the same time, right? And you're looking at the prices coming in from both, and the people in the 2 auction houses don't realize they're competing with each other unless the people in both auction houses are Google. One auction house is run by Google, and the person bidding for you in the Google auction house is Google.
You see how this could all...
The person bidding in the non-Google auction house, yeah, okay, Google isn't running the other auction house, but they're bidding in the other auction house. So what happens is Google was putting in an extra bid. The same ad was in two different auction houses. Google would put an extra bid in that was high in their auction house, right? So now what happens is the Google auction house ends up being the place where the winning bid is all the time, right? So it's like, oh, I'm trying to sell my stuff in all these auction houses, but the Google auction house always has the highest bids and keeps winning all the time. That's where the big bidders are, right? And so I have to sell there if I'm an ad space seller, right? And they're using that monopoly power to grant. So
now this is sort of the thing this is pure speculation, but I wonder very strongly what's going to happen. Let's say Google gets broken up and like they actually separate all these different like stages of the ad world into different companies that can't collude with each other. It is possible the money exchanged in advertising will drop like a rock because it's possible that it's all inflated by Google's shenanigans. It is also it's possible that advertising as a bubble might collapse as a result of this. It's possible that Google literally can't make money with anything it does except the advertising.
Right. Well, there's a few things that will happen. First of all, right, Google, at every step, all three steps, Google is extracting fees, right? So if there's a competitive marketplace, there will be competitive pressure for the provider of each of the three services with the lowest fees.
Yep.
Right?
Just like in capital markets, there's a concept of best execution. You cannot just charge someone more to trade a stock if they could have gotten it cheaper elsewhere. Like, you can get in trouble. If I take orders from Scott and Scott's paying me a fee for me to trade, and then I trade them on my friend Joey Jojo's exchange instead of the NYSE because Joey Jojo will give me a better commission rate, that's illegal. That is like literally illegal.
I realized something. I did not press record.
I have the backup. It just means that the audio on this episode of Geek Nights is going to be what Scott sounds like through the Discord and not Scott's real voice.
I pushed record just now. My voice may suddenly change.
It's Monday, so this is a good opportunity. Normally you'd hear the ad read was like, speaking of, this is why you have redundant fucking systems and backups, kids. Like, I have so many backups of Scott's voice in case something like that happens. That's why Geek Nights so rarely fucks up.
Anyway, we didn't do, I guess, because of the hiatus. We didn't actually say, let's push record.
I did say, let's push record.
I don't remember. Anyway.
I didn't listen for your act. That's the other problem.
I don't know. Anyway, I pushed it now. So, the last bit. All right. So, the people who were selling ad space, right, have somewhat recently, the past few years is what I mean by recently, right, tried to do this thing called header bidding, right?
Oh.
So what header bidding is basically been them trying to get out from under Google's thumb, right? Basically, they're trying to run the auction, right, in the header of the website, technologically speaking. So basically, trying to get this auction done quickly before the rest of the website loads super fast and getting bids from a lot of sources, right? Instead of where before what they used to do is they would do a waterfall kind of situation where they would say, hey, you, what's your bid? And then they would go, if they didn't like if the bid was good enough, they'd go with it. And then you go to the second person and they say, what's your bid? Right? Until they found a bid they liked. And at the very bottom was Google, right? And it's like, okay, we couldn't find anyone else who was buying this ad, and we didn't sell the ad directly to someone. So at the last case, we're going to ask Google, right? And because they had this waterfall system, Google knew how this waterfall system worked. They manipulated it, and even though they were at the bottom, they could still get you to the bottom a lot, right? And win. So the header bidding is basically trying to get simultaneous bids from everybody, right? It's like, instead of going from one to the next until you find a number you like, it's just, hey, everybody, what will you pay? All the numbers come back. And then in the header of the website, it's like, which ad was going to pay the most? Run that one.
Yep.
And then, we can't sit here to explain it all, but Google tried to stop that too. Google's was like, man, this is going to ruin us. And they tried to put an end to it. And it's like, on the one hand, it's like, yeah, that was anti-competitive and bad. But on the other hand, they were fucking over people who were doing ads. So I don't have that much sympathy. Right?
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing is like all this stuff, right? When you read about what Google did, and it's like you imagine yourself in the shoes of like the ad buyer getting ripped off or the ad seller getting ripped off.
But I hate the ad buyers. I hate the ad buyers with a passion already.
I hate all three of these people, right?
And basically ad buyers are subsidizing all the technology that people use ad blocker on.
Right. It's like, I don't really care if all these people get fucked over.
Yeah.
This is just like a popcorn situation here, right? That's what you got to remember. But, if you think ad buying and selling is okay, well, then yeah, the ad people, they got done dirty, right?
Yep.
By how all this works. And they had to and that's why ads technologically keep ruining websites, because they have to keep doing more and more shenanigans like the header bidding to get the websites to get the money, right?
Yep.
If someone was to make a website with like nice behaving ads, right? Like just a JPEG that loads and doesn't track you and, doesn't do anything shady and doesn't make the website load slow.
Like
right?
if I pay Scott $100 for my JPEG to show up on his page every time anyone loads it for a month, like that is very simple and straightforward.
Right. If you try to do ads like that, the good way, you won't make any freaking money. There's no auctions happening. You're going to not get the right prices. You're not going to, right? It's like, if you want to get more money, you have to double this tracking. And so that way, when you put your thing in the auction house, it looks really good and the right buyer can find it and bid highly for it, right? And you have to make your website load a little bit slower so that you can take a few extra milliseconds to get bids from more places. And you have to show video ads because someone will pay more for those. And so on and so on and so forth.
So what do you do? Because we've gone on long. This happens every time we don't do a Geek Nights.
Always.
Yep, always run ad block. Block all ads no matter what, because fuck all of them.
Just in computers. I'm talking about in your entire life, anywhere there are ads in your life, anywhere, billboards, it's like there's only so much you can do, but do what you can do. Find a way to, blot them out of your life as much as possible, right?
And two, if you try to read about what we talked about, you're going to see a lot of really, really jargony nonsense, because the ad tech world uses its own language to describe everything we just described, like DSPs and SSPs and all these different...
Here's the link to the U.S. Justice Department.
Yep,
right?
just read that. It explains everything.
It's on our website, front.crew.com, which has no ads on it. I even removed Google Analytics from it. Right? If you scroll to the bottom of the page I linked... Right? On the page, you're going to see a diagram that shows what we explained. But at the bottom, it'll say attachments, download complaint. Right? If you click download complaint, you're going to get this PDF that is, how long is this thing? It's pretty long.
Yeah, but the way I describe it is this kind of document. Remember, this is
155-page PDF, but it is very plain English, very comprehensible.
Well, because this is a legal document, so basically this has to convince like a judge and a bunch of people. Yeah, a jury.
For a jury trial.
Yep.
Right? So a jury is going to read this and have to decide, whether Google is guilty or not. It's someday, hopefully, right? If there's not some sort of settlement, or who knows what they're going to do, right? But
there are indications that the DOJ will not accept a settlement. They issued a statement to the effect of, promises of better future behavior and fines rarely achieve the desired results. We are seeking a full breakup as the sole remedy.
Well, here we can read at the very bottom in section 9, request for relief. To remedy these illegal acts, plaintiffs request that the court, a judge and decree that Google has violated this law, a judge and decree Google has attempted to monopolize in violation of the Sherman Act, a judge that they have broken other part of the Sherman Act, award damages, order the divestiture of, at minimum, the Google Ad Manager suite, including both Google's Publisher Ad Server and Google's Ad Exchange, along with any additional structural relief as needed to cure any competitive harm, enjoin Google from continuing to engage in the anti-competitive practices described herein, enter any other relief necessary to restore competitive conditions in the markets of ad buying and selling, I'm paraphrasing.
Yep. I think this would absolutely destroy Google.
Finds proper and award the plaintiffs as applicable an amount equal to cost attorney's fees. And the plaintiffs isn't just the U.S. Department of Justice. It's also several states, including California, where Google is,
Yep.
New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Tennessee, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, you can see, that's like anyone can understand that if you're literate in the English language, right? So, but yeah, the table of contents is just like how ad tech tools work, how ad tech intermediaries get paid, how publishers and advertisers select ad tech tools, Google's scheme to dominate the ad tech stock. And it's like Google, in here, they allege, in my opinion, correctly, Google was actually making less money than it could have made in order to squelch competition, right? If Google had done, I guess, the right thing, which is, I guess, the second best right thing, the best thing being not having ads, the second best thing of running these networks legitimately, they would have made more money. Right? They were giving up revenues in order to destroy competitors for the long-term play, which is the illegal part.
Yep. All right, I think that was a solid show.
Hour and recorded 8 minutes of it.
That's fine. I got my backup Discord audio. It's fine.
Okay.
I'll be curious if anyone...
8-minute wave file.
I don't think I even need that. It'll be more of a pain to incorporate that than to just use the Discord.
Okay.
All right, time for food. And is there hockey tonight?
There's not hockey for a whole week.
Oh, I guess you're right.
It's an all-star break.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Guess I'll just play video games.
Tomorrow we can play Marvel Snap.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited about that. I got fucking no cards. I was hanging out with Skojo because he plays it a lot. And he showed me his deck. I only had like 2 of the cards in his whole fucking deck.
Yep. I mean, I only started... when did I start? Let me look at my progress. I got a tracker. I've been tracking.
Oh, I get cards at like...
I play on the first day, which is October 18th.
Yeah.
Right? I played until like a few seconds, right? I got to basically not any significant amount of play, right? Then I started playing on January 13th. So I've been playing for 2 weeks, right? In 2 weeks,